What's going on, everybody? It's Matt Faircloth. So welcome to this live session for BiggerPockets.com. And we are broadcasting simulcast at the same time on the BiggerPockets Facebook page and on the BiggerPockets YouTube page, because we want to make sure all you guys get access to this data. So if you guys are watching live, I'm excited that you guys are here. And I'm grateful for that. If you guys are watching on Facebook, do me a favor and give this thing a like. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and give it a like as well, or give it a heart, whatever you choose to do on Facebook. You know, you've got several options there. But what that does is that lets those social media channels know that what you're watching is of value to you and you're enjoying it so much that you want to validate it with a thumbs up. That then tells that social media channel, be it Facebook, YouTube, whatever it is, hey, I like this and I want you to show it to more people. And that's what they're going to do. And more people will become aware of this stream and more aware of BiggerPockets.com in general, because you guys are all raving fans of BiggerPockets like Jay Scott and I are. So why don't you guys go and do us a favor and like this, share it, whatever it is you want to do, make other people aware of this feed right now. Now, enough of that. Today's conversation is all about you guys. Hi, Aylin or Ayla. Good. Glad you're here. YouTube user. Glad you're here. So, today's conversation is obviously what today's conversation is for a lot of different folks, and that's just the state of the economy. I go live on BiggerPockets every Monday at noon Eastern Standard Time. So if you want to catch me again, I'm always here every Monday at noon if you're watching the recording of this. And today, and maybe hopefully in the future, we'll be getting my good friend and fellow BiggerPockets contributor, BiggerPockets author, and BiggerPockets rockstar, Jay Scott, is joining me here to talk about just the state of the current economy. There's a lot of changes that have come down the pipe, obviously, that we need to discuss. We need to make you guys aware of what we think is going on, answer your questions, and just be here for you guys to just have a great conversation about the state of the economy and the state of what's going on. So, Jay, thank you. I know you're busy. I'm sure you got a ton that you're working on right now. So I really appreciate you taking some time to spend some time with me and the BiggerPockets audience just to update us on everything that's going on in the world. Thank you.
Yeah, so actually I've been sleeping for a couple of months, but I woke up this morning and I have all these emails about something going on in the economy. What's going on?
Yeah,
Something happened that I missed.
Yeah. What if you were in a that's a funny conversation. What if you were in a coma? Like for like a month, like something awful happened, God forbid, car accident, like a Hal Elrod kind of thing where you got taken out into a coma and you woke up today. It's like, we got to catch you up.
Here's the crazy thing. I often describe what we're going through as kind of like going to sleep back in the end of February, beginning of March. Yep. And we haven't quite woken up yet. All of this is sort of a dream. And from an investing standpoint, it's actually a reasonable analogy. Basically, everything that's going on right now, just like in a dream, it's not reality. It can't be trusted. I'm not saying you can't do deals now. I'm not saying you can't make a lot of money right now or lose a lot of money right now, depending on what you're doing. I mean, but the point is,
both are possible.
It's kind of like in the real world, there are these laws of physics. And everything kind of follows these laws of physics. And in the real world, there are these sort of laws or rules of economics, and everything follows these laws of economics. Then when you go to sleep at night, physics is kind of out the window. You can fall off a cliff and start to fly and
so you woke up on the ceiling. It's like waking up on the ceiling of your bedroom. That's a great analogy. And you're like, guess gravity's not working right now. What do I do?
And the laws of economics aren't necessarily working right now because we're kind of in this dream state or this weird state that we've never been in. So we can talk about what's going on. But what I will tell people is anything I say may or may not be true for you in your market for a particular deal you're doing. If I said to you, hey, how much is this house down the street from you worth? I don't know. Depending on the hour, somebody could pay more than list price for it. Somebody could pay a tenth of list price for it. There are so many different variables. I think what it really boils down to is we have these things called markets. And markets are places where we buy and sell things. So the real estate market is a place where we buy and sell real estate. And what makes real estate a good investment? Why do we like to invest in real estate in the real estate market? And the primary reason is because real estate is a relatively inefficient market. We talk about efficient markets, inefficient markets. What do I mean by that? An efficient market is one where all the information is kind of priced in. There's lots of information. Everybody that's buying and selling in that market kind of has the same information, and they all have a lot of information. And there are a whole lot of buyers and sellers. So if you think about, let's say, the real estate market is a really efficient market. There are millions of buyers. There's millions of sellers. If I went to buy Microsoft stock right now, it's not like I'm the only one that wants to buy Microsoft stock right now. There's a million other people that are buying and selling it over the next 60 seconds. So that, coupled with the fact that all the information about Microsoft, for the most part, is out there. I don't have any more information about Microsoft than you do. I don't have any more information than anybody that works at Microsoft. If you work at Microsoft, you can't trade on that information. Everybody has the same amount of information. We're all equally experts. So it's a really efficient market. And in a really efficient market, it's tough to make money. Not many people make money in the stock market. People talk about making money in the stock market, but the best hedge fund managers in the world, the best stock fund managers in the world, have trouble making money in the stock market year over year. There are a few people in the world that do it because it's such an efficient market. The reason we like real estate is because real estate tends to be a pretty inefficient market. There aren't a million people competing for that house I want to buy over there. I might be the only person competing for that house. So it's not like there's a ton of competition. Second, I probably have more information about that house across the street from me than you do, Matt. If I want to buy that house that I'm looking out outside my window right now, I have more information about that seller, that house, the market than you do. It's not like Microsoft stock where we all have equal information. So real estate tends to be a pretty inefficient market. Inefficient markets are very favorable for people that have information. If you have information about that thing, if you have more information than other people about that thing you want to buy or sell, you're going to do better. Here's the problem with right now. Because this economy is so crazy, real estate has become a crazy inefficient market. And I no longer have more information than you. I don't know what that seller across the street is thinking. I don't know if they're thinking this whole economy is going to collapse and I need to sell my house tomorrow, or they're thinking, oh no, the stats look pretty good, I'm going to sell over list price. And so real estate right now is a highly inefficient market, and there are things that are selling above list price. There are things that are selling for half of list price. Everything's kind of all over the board. And I think for as long as this lockdown continues to go on, we're going to see kind of all bets are off, all rules are off. And if somebody asks me what's going on in the real estate market, I can't tell you.
Well, let me add on to that, because I think that so that's brilliant, and it's a great way to look at what I interpreted you to say is like the liquidity of stocks versus the liquidity of real estate. It's very easy. Like if I'm like, hey, I own a rental property, I don't like it anymore, I'm going to liquidate it. Boom. I can't do that. I can do that with stocks.
Yep.
I say I don't like Microsoft stock anymore. I'm going to sell. I'm not thinking it's going to go up very much anymore. I could sell it within a couple of seconds. There are
a million people out there ready to buy it.
Sure. That house I don't like down the street, take coronavirus out of it for a second, it still would take me likely 30 to 60 days to sell to someone unless they're buying cash or buying a little bit outside the bell curve, right? If they're buying like a normal buyer is, they're using financing, they're using appraisals, they're using due diligence periods, they're using all kinds of stuff that we use that typically drags out of closing. So real estate is a very slow moving vehicle. On top of that, real estate has come to rely on, now let's talk about investment grade real estate, has come to rely on two things: a revenue stream and most likely a bank loan, right? Those last two things have become harder to come by, right? Or even they're unreliable, let's say, that you can still get, a revenue stream, you can still get a bank loan on a property, but it's unreliable where they're going to come from, and the terms have changed overnight. It goes back to the laws of physics. Up until recently, the what lending terms I could get were pretty much given. Those were pretty much the laws of physics of the universe, but they've all changed. Everything's changed. So I agree with you, Jay. This is great, but I want we've got a lot of great comments here. 30-year fixed mortgages is somebody's commenting that's maybe under fire here, or just we've 30-year fixed mortgages assume the world's going to stay about the same that it is for about 30 years. That's why 30 years fixed mortgages make sense. Thank you, Teresa, for that. Keep the questions and comments coming, guys, because I want to start firing off your questions over to Jay. And if I could add any value to him as well, I will. Quick shout out to Jessica calling in from Detroit. Welcome. And if you guys want to give your geographical location in a comment, I will gladly give you guys a shout out. I might even give a high five, which looks like this. So Jay, I don't know if you comment on this one, but JP Morgan has tightened lending. Personal residential down is 20% down required. What are your thoughts? I'll even make this tighten up the question here. Is the world of 5% down real estate buying on personal residences, is that going away with this?
It already has. So JP Morgan is kind of the first to kind of publicize this. Again, they've gone to 20% down. They've also gone from 580 minimum credit score. They're now at 660. So as of this past weekend, you need a 660 credit score to get a loan through JP Morgan. And just so people understand how this works, typically when you're getting a loan, especially what we call a conventional loan, a loan through a big lender like a JP Morgan, typically speaking, you're going to get a loan through your bank. Your bank might be Wells Fargo, it might be Chase, it might be a small local bank. What they're going to do is they're going to turn around and they're going to resell that loan to a company like Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac or Penny Mac, one of those really big government, quasi-government type companies. And so Wells Fargo, they're only going to originate a loan. They're only going to fund your loan if they can turn around and then resell that loan to one of the big companies, either the reinsurance companies or the mortgage companies. And so if they think it's going to be difficult to resell that loan for any reason, Wells Fargo doesn't want to make that loan. They're not in the business of holding a loan for 30 years. Anybody that's gotten a loan knows that typically within a month of getting the loan, you get a letter that says, hey, your loan has been sold to somebody else. Here's your new servicer. So
within a week of closing sometimes. Yeah. I mean, I've gotten that letter like right after my ink was still drying on the contract, and I got a letter saying, hey, we're your new servicer. They bundle them up and sell them off. Yeah, absolutely.
Wells Fargo and Chase Bank and Bank of America, they're not in the business of 30-year 4%. They make their money elsewhere. So they want to sell these loans. If they think they can't sell these loans, they are not going to make the loans. So just to make sure that they can sell the loans, they do what are called overlays. They have these things called overlays, which means Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac say, here are the minimum requirements for us to buy this loan from you. But if JP Morgan or Chase, let's say Chase or Wells Fargo is concerned that, tomorrow Fannie Mae may not want to buy these loans. They may want a higher credit score. They may want more down payments. They can say, these are the minimums, but we're going to require more than the Fannie Mae minimums, because by the time we go to sell this loan in a couple of weeks, they may ask for more.
Because that's a speculation of thinking what Fannie and Freddie are going to do.
Right. Wow. So Fannie and Freddie might say, we'll still do a 5% loan, but Wells Fargo is going to say, nope, we don't know if that's going to be the case. Right. We don't know if that's going to be the case in a week or two or three when this loan actually closes. We're promising, we're signing on this loan, or we're promising this loan today, but it's not closing for a month. By then, I may not be able to do the 5%. I may only be able to do 20% resale to Fannie Mae. So I'm going to introduce what's called an overlay. I'm going to have my own rule that says I'm only willing to do 20%. So typically, when you're going to get a loan, if you're seeing 20%, doesn't mean you can't get a 5% loan. It just means that there are a whole lot of banks that don't trust that that's going to work in a month, so they stop doing those 5% loans.
That's interesting, Jay. Now let me expand on that, because what you're talking about is, again, this is due to coronavirus. There's a lot of lack of information right now, right? How many people in the U.S. have coronavirus? I don't know. How many people have already had it? I don't know. I could keep with the I don't know list, right? So because I think it's just part of the human mind. With the lack of information, people start making things up. That's what happens. I can't, my mind can't stand not knowing a fact. And so because if I don't know a fact, I'll just make an assumption. And so because of coronavirus, the world is making a ton of assumptions right now, which is why the Dow Jones Industrial Average fell like 10,000 points a couple of weeks ago, right when you and I were together in South Jersey at a mastermind. We were watching it happen real time, right? That was the beginning of the dip. Now, it's not like the world economic system or the PE ratios on all those companies all drastically changed. It was all because people were filling in the gaps of data that we didn't have. And so they were just, speculating on what they thought things were going to do. Do you care to comment on what else you're seeing in changes that people are making in the absence of data, assumptions that people are making, lending, rents, tenants, real estate markets, any other speculative efforts that you're seeing that are causing drastic changes in the market?
Yeah, so all of those things, and again,
Mm-hmm.
it goes back to typically during a recession, we have good information. We
Yeah.
know that something bad is happening, so we're all kind of in lockstep. So everybody's kind of selling off the stock market at the same time. Everybody's either worried about real estate or not worried about real estate at the same time. People are either buying gold or not buying gold at the same time because we all kind of have the same information. In
Mm-hmm.
this day and age, not only do we have this crazy event that's unprecedented over the last 100 years, this lockdown event, but we also have access to all this information, some true, some not true, some we
Yep.
don't know if it's true on the internet. And so we don't know. Nobody agrees. We're not in lockstep on this. Half the people out there that I talk to think the real estate market is cruising along and prices are higher than they were a month or two ago. Half the people I talk to think, "Oh no, I don't want to be buying and selling real estate right now. I wouldn't buy a piece of real estate except if it were half price." So nobody's in lockstep. There's not enough reliable information out there that everybody agrees on that we can say this is where we're headed. And
Yeah.
I mean, even if you ask in 3 months when the lockdown's over, hopefully, is the economy going to return to normal, or is it going to get into a recession, or is it
I
going to
don't
get into a depression? And depending on who you talk to, everybody has a different idea of where we're headed. You look at 2008, go back to April of 2008, we pretty much all knew where things were headed. There was
Yep.
no disagreement where we were.
We all
gonna be in
knew we got
summer of
way too
2008.
much of these bad loans. We got to get them off the books and we can get back
Exactly.
on our feet. We all knew that's what it was. And I was investing in 2008 like you were. And we all saw that there's just this behemoth of debt that just needs to get burned off. Foreclosures need to get worked out of the system, either through loan workouts or through REOs or whatever it is. And that will bring things back to health. Now, we don't know. I mean, again, this thing's only hit a couple, it's really only hit us hard about a month ago. So maybe as we continue to close the gap and get more and more information, it'll start to make more sense. Tons of questions coming in. So I'm going to start speed round and start firing off some questions at you, Jay. So get ready. Here we go. Okay. Coming from Annabelle. Hey guys, from Toronto, Canada, looking to invest in the US. Now, this may be one of these things we're just not sure yet, Annabelle, but I'll give it a shot. Do you think the Canadian dollar will get par with the US dollar? Jay.
So the US dollar has gotten stronger and stronger and stronger over the last couple months. That makes sense. I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail there because I'll bore everybody. But basically, the dollar gets strong when everybody wants it. And when people start to get scared, they do what's called flee to safety. They put their money where it's safe. And where's the safest place on the planet to put your money? It's to put it into US dollars or government bonds. So everybody wants to be in U.S. government bonds because it's the safest place. The U.S. government's never defaulted on their debt. And so countries and big investors and big companies around the world are moving their money to U.S. dollars. That makes the U.S. dollar very, very strong. That's good in some respects. It's bad in other respects. We don't have to go into that. But the fact is the U.S. dollar is very strong. The U.S. dollar is likely to continue to stay very strong throughout the rest of this crisis until we have some idea of where things are headed. If it turns out things are going to get better, people are going to start to diversify. They're going to take their money out of bonds and they're going to start putting it back in real estate or stocks or any number of assets. If things start to get worse, if the stock market drops and corporations start to do bad and we start seeing all these bank defaults and basically we head into a recession or a depression, people are going to flee to safety again. And where are they going to go? They're probably going to keep their money in US dollars. So in terms of what is going to happen with the Canadian dollar, I'd say the Canadian dollar is less likely to move right now. A lot of currencies aren't going to move a whole lot over the next few months until this lockdown ends. The question is, where's the US dollar going to move? Is the dollar going to drop or is the dollar going to stay strong? And that'll give an idea of the par values of all these other different currencies. Personally, I think over the next year or two, for a lot of reasons, the US dollar is probably going to get weaker. And I think it's going to be a good thing. I think the dollar is too strong for a lot of reasons right now. I think we're going to see a weaker dollar, and I think we're going to see a lot of currencies kind of bump up in relation to the dollar over the next year or two.
Good job. Thank you. All right. Next, Jan, how do we manage risk associated with taking on hard money conventional debt for projects? That's an interesting question. What kind of analysis for the institution can help us understand whether or not can have the solvency required to perform and not call our loan early? In layman's terms, what Jan is saying, guys, is we've got a lot. There is so much hard money out there right now. So what Jan is saying is, how do I know that this hard money partner of mine is going to have a solvency issue, meaning like they might just start running low on cash and might call up a loan covenant in their hard money loan to me and rake their loan back, or at least send me some sort of a demand letter. Is that a concern, Jay? And if it is, how do we vet hard money lenders or money partners to make sure that they've got the solvency to weather the storm?
Yep. First of all, Jan, sorry he called you Jan.
I did.
It's okay. You don't know. I know him. If you don't know
I'm not. Oh, you know Jan? Okay.
I know Jan. Hey, Jan. So it's a tough question. It's a real tough question these days. And if I were getting a hard money loan right now, I would ask the lender to take any cash that they're going to pay me for construction draws, and I would ask them to escrow it. Mm-hmm. I would say put it into an account that we both control, or that's controlled by a third party, so that I know that when it's time for me to get a draw, the money is there. I've heard from hard money lenders, I've heard from people who have hard money lenders that literally there are lenders who are saying, I can't make my draws. Yep. So they give you your money up front to buy the place, but then they don't give you your draws to continue the renovations. I don't know how that's going to shake out. I mean, I imagine there are going to be a lot of lawsuits going on, or a lot of people negotiating concessions. But if I were going to get a hard money loan right now, or a loan from any non-government insured source, I would want any future construction draws to be escrowed. Okay.
Do you require that, or are you willing to pay interest on that on those escrowed funds?
It's going to be case by case. I have done portfolio loans with banks where they actually want you to make interest payments on the escrowed funds, even though you don't get them. That's just part of the negotiation. So if the deal still makes sense, I certainly might, if that's going to be my best choice of funds.
Yeah, we're in the middle of that right now. A bank advanced us some capital for an apartment building we're renovating, and they've advanced it and I'm okay with that because it's in an escrow. It's over here. I can see it. It's under control, and I'm paying interest on it, and I'm okay with that because now I know that my capital that I need is preserved, and it's in a lockbox. Our good friend Bree Schmidt. Hey, Bree. The 5% program came out during the last recession to stimulate the economy. Good point, Bree. These things haven't been around forever. So while it's going to be hard to get a residential loan for at least the next 6 months, programs are going to resurface on the rebound. That's never really a question. They're really just a comment. Bree, I think you're right. I think that there are lending and real estate and things that'll benefit the real estate market that are probably going to get thought up in the next couple of months. And if we can, as a BiggerPockets community, get ahead of those things and know what's coming in the pipeline, we're only going to be that much more educated, that much better. Jay, do you agree?
Yeah. Well, here's the crazy thing. I think with a lot of stuff going on, but I think lending is the perfect example to use here. Is again, I use the analogy of we're kind of asleep right now, and we're kind of dreaming, and when we wake up, we don't know what's going to be going on in the real world. I think lending is a perfect example. I would guess that in 6 months, lending is either going to be 10 times better or 10 times worse. We don't know which one it is. And when I say 6 months, maybe 12 months. At some point, we're either going to emerge from this whole lockdown thing and things are going to slowly get better over the next 12 months, or we're going to emerge from this lockdown thing and we're going to see a cascading effect of bad economic news and things are going to go down the toilet. I don't know which one it is, but I think it's safe to say that in 6 to 12 months, lending's either going to be a lot better or a lot worse. Just don't know which one.
You're absolutely right. Quickie question here to Ka. Thanks, guys. We're wholesaling in DC. I had to give a little shout out here, Jay, because and Ka's question's so large, is blocking you and I both out. But it's okay. No, it's okay. You can pick it back up. It's on our old stomping ground. Jay and I grew up not too far from each other, so in Maryland and Virginia and DC. Ka's looking to wholesale apartment buildings, 20 to 60 units. And what will be the legal ramifications from making a soft intro to a sponsor, a syndicate, and then having our team acquisition fee, this and that. So here's my thoughts on it, Ka. If you want coverage on that, you got to just get everything in writing and make sure that you're covered in whatever agreements, and make sure people that you're going to introduce to the deal sign all these things ahead of time and agree to pay your fee and make sure it's disclosed up front. And then secondly, do that deal yourself, Kyle. Read my book, Raising Private Capital, that I wrote with BiggerPockets.com, and go raise the money out of your own network, because you know people that have money that would love to invest passively with you, Kyle, and do that deal on your own. Don't just walk away for a quick shot in the arm, little fee in your pocket. Take the passive income, take the cash flow, figure out how to do the deal yourself, and raise the money through the technology that's in my book, Raising Private Capital, which you can get by going to BiggerPockets.com/private money book. Jay, any thoughts on that? Wholesaling versus owning direct?
I mean, so you're certainly the expert on that topic, but I will throw out that always make sure that you're knowledgeable about the laws. If you're raising money for a syndication, there may be requirements. I'm not going to say any more than that, but there may be requirements for either one, being a broker, or two, owning equity in that syndication. Just taking a fee, not having any equity, I've heard, may be against the rules if you're not a broker or you don't have equity. But again, I'm not an expert there. I would just say anybody that's raising money, anybody that's doing anything with syndications, get familiar with the rules, because you just don't want to be in a situation where if something goes south, you're liable.
There's some great syndication attorneys out there in the world. Some of them have been guests on the Bigger Pockets podcast. Makes sense. First of all, neither Jay nor I are attorneys, and that. So just make sure that what we're presenting here is not legal advice. You guys need to go to an attorney and get true legal advice on how to position yourself in the market, especially when it comes to syndications, because they can get hairy. And there's a lovely organization called the SEC that regulates those things. So you should definitely make sure that that you're in compliance. Now, Robin, what about investing in such crowdfunding programs like Fundrise? Jay, what do you think about crowdfunding portals and programs now? And also, what do you think the future of crowdfunding is? Crystal ball is broken, I know, but how does this shakeup in the market affect crowdfunding currently and in the future?
Yep. So just for full disclosure, I sit on the board of a company called Fund That Flip, which is a crowdfunding site for house flippers. So I just want to disclose that so everybody knows that where my interests lie. So I am a big fan in general of crowdfunding sites, but they are not all created equal. Some sites are better at the underwriting. Some sites are better at the marketing and the money raising. Some sites are better at this. Some sites are better at that. I would suggest that in this time, if you're going to invest in a crowdfunding site, that you find one that is really, really good at underwriting. I don't care if they're good at marketing. I don't care if they're good at raising money. I don't care if they have pretty reports that they send you every month, or if they have radio ads or spend all this money, whatever. All I would care about is that they're really good and really conservative with their underwriting. That said, because I do have an interest in one particular company, I'm not going to throw out names or talk about any of them specifically, but make sure you go do your diligence. Ask to see their default rate. Ask to see their repayment rate. Ask to see what a typical underwriting, what they look for in underwriting a deal, what their loan to values are, and all those things. And make sure you're comfortable that they are being conservative enough in their underwriting.
And I'll add to this too. Remember, Robinson, that when you invest into crowdfunding and it's something you find on Fundrise, you're not investing with Fundrise.com. You're not investing with CrowdStreet or those organizations. You're investing with someone who has their deal posted on that portal. Fundrise itself is not placing your capital. Joe Smith, the syndicator that's sitting behind Fundrise, that got vetted by Fundrise, hopefully, to post his or her deal onto Fundrise, is who the real operator is. That's who you need to vet. You can vet Fundrise as an organization and make sure that there's folks that are happy with them and everything like that. But at the end of the day, all they are is a marketplace. And you want to vet who the actual operator of that apartment building is, or whatever it is you're looking to invest in. And on top of all of it else, the sun's been shining pretty bright for the last 9 years economically in the real estate market. So if someone got into this business recently, then there's a lot of great operators that have only been going on for the last couple of years. I think it's more importantly now more than ever that invest with operators that have seen some turmoil, some downturns. Folks like BiggerPockets contributor Brian Burke, who's been around for a while and has been through 2008, and Dave Van Horn, Brian Burke, myself, Jay Scott, that have all been around. I mean, we've all seen market cycles before, and we haven't seen a real shift in the market cycle in the last 9 years. We've seen a big ramp up like this. So investing with operators that have been around through a few changes, I think, is even more important. It's less important the last couple months ago, but way more important now. So those are my few.
Yeah, and let me just throw out, I said companies that underwrite deals. Keep in mind, these crowdsourcing sites, maybe not all of them, the ones I'm familiar with, they will typically do a round of underwriting before they even allow a deal on the site. They don't just allow everything. So when I say make sure you know how they're doing their underwriting, know how they're doing their underwriting of the borrower to get the deal on the site. And then you have to do your underwriting of the specific deal as well. So yeah, Matt brought that up and I failed to. So thank you, Matt. Be familiar with their underwriting, but also make sure you're doing your underwriting of the specific deal as well.
It's very good. Kenisha had a great question here, and this really is up your alley, Jade, because I know you've got some great ventures on the way here. Is there any hope that a new service-based business will be able to launch this year in the current economic climate? And you can speak very personally on that. What do you got?
I launched a service-based business back in January, specifically because I expected a recession. So you want to find businesses that are recession resistant, which means businesses that, well, obviously in today's environment, we can use the term essential businesses. We all hear that term a lot. So you don't necessarily need an essential business during a normal economic downturn. But if you have a business that's classified as essential right now, obviously that's going to be a big boon, because in a lot of states, if you don't have an essential business, you're not allowed to operate. So that's part of being recession resistant. But even more so, it's knowing who is going to need your service. So for example, I'll just give the example. A few months ago, I started a remediation business, fire, water, mold remediation. Basically, people call us when their house catches on fire and they need somebody to board it up and fix it up. They call us when there's a water emergency, like a flood in their house, and they call us if there's a major mold emergency in their house. Now, during a recession, are people still going to have fires? Are they still going to have floods? Are they still going to have mold? Yep. Is it something they're going to say, it's a recession, I can't afford this, so I'm going to wait 2 years to fix my fire damaged house or my flood or whatever? No, they're not. That's still a service they're going to need during a recession. More importantly, who's paying for this? Well, typically the insurance company. So I don't care, not that I don't care, personally I care, but from a business standpoint, I don't care the personal financial situation of the homeowner. I don't care if they can afford my services or not, because for the most part, their insurance company is going to be paying for it and will continue to do so through the recession. So find those companies, find those businesses that your services are going to be needed, rain or shine, recession or no recession. Find those services where maybe a third party is going to be paying for the service, like an insurance company. And also, I'm a big fan of, during a recession, a lot of people are out of work. They're looking for a way to make money on their own. So what are they going to do? They're going to look for that low-hanging fruit. They're going to figure out the easiest business they can start. Back after 2008 is, I'm going to write an ebook, or I'm going to do internet marketing, or I'm going to do affiliate marketing, a lot of online stuff. I think during a recession, you need to find a business that has what's referred to as a high barrier to entry, a business that's not easy to start. So that way you won't have as much competition. So I chose my business because it requires employees. It's a 24/7 business. We need to take calls in the middle of the night. You need some specific skills, like you need to know how to clean up after a fire and how to board up a house after a fire and how to deal with mold. You need to have mold license. So all of these things make it more difficult for a million other people to come in and compete with me. So right now, I think is a great time to be starting a service-based business. Make sure it's recession resistant. I also think now is a fantastic time to be buying a business. And I've talked about this a lot recently. 2008 to 11 was probably the greatest opportunity to jump into real estate and pick up great real estate deals in the last decade or the last century. I think 2020 to 2023 is going to be the best time in the next or in the last century to get into buying a business or starting a business, because there are going to be so many businesses that go out of business over the next few months that a lot of these owners are going to be looking to sell or even give away their business. If you're willing to just keep continuity and keep employees employed, there are going to be a lot of owners that are happy to basically just give you their business, do owner financing. And then there's going to be a big gap in a lot of markets because a lot of businesses are going to go out of business.
And that'll create less competition if you're starting up a business. In that, okay, now there's, at X amount, if you're going to start up an ice cream store or whatever it is, maybe not that, because if you start up a service-based business, like Jay's done with, remediation companies, maybe there were 10 of them in the market, post coronavirus, and maybe 5. Then you hate to see people go out of business, but also that means that their employees may be up for rehire for your company. There's a lot of new talent in the talent pool for you to dip into, and then less folks you're going to have to go bidding against in the market. So great question. A few other questions here. Quickly, Jace wanted to know, how do you see your guys' strategy changing now? Jay, you just outlined yours. How do you outline, but talk about your real estate strategy. Has your real estate investing strategy changed through this? And if you've developed the strategy yet, if it's still forming, great. But what's changed for you?
Yep. So let me start with a quick plug. I actually wrote a book that BiggerPockets published about a year ago called Recession-Proof Real Estate Investing. And it talks all about how economic cycles work and how I personally change my strategy throughout each phase of the cycle. So 6 months ago, I was, if you look at the book, doing the stuff that was preparing. Had my strategy was at the peak phase, so the top of the cycle, and I was doing stuff to prepare for the next phase, which is the recession phase. Right now, I believe that we're going to be entering into that recession phase if we haven't already in the next couple of months. So basically what I'm doing right now is everything laid out in the book related to the recession phase. That said, so I encourage everybody to pick up the book and read it. That said, my specific advice, and I get this advice a lot, what should I be doing right now? What type of deal should I be buying? Should I be buying? My specific advice today is, if you need to ask Matt or me or anybody else what specifically you should be doing, my suggestion is you should be in wait and see mode right now.
Yeah.
If you don't know enough that you're comfortable making your own decisions in this market, you shouldn't be making any decisions in this market, because this is a really, really difficult market. And I can't tell you what you should be doing because I don't know your liquidity situation. I don't know your location. I don't know your experience. I don't know your risk tolerance. I don't know any of those things. And all of those things come into play today. Like I said, if we were in a steady state, even if we're in a recession, I can give you a strategy. But right now there are so many unknowns. Everything is so different in every market. Every house, every deal is so completely crazy right now that if you're not an expert, now is a perfect time to be jumping on BiggerPockets, reading every forum thread you can, picking up any book on BiggerPockets that looks interesting to you, writing out a business plan, creating a team. Go find partners and contractors and people that you can team up with so that in a month or 2 or 3, when things kind of get back to normal, even if it's a new normal, when things get back to normal, you'll be ready to hit the ground running. Don't not do anything right now. Just don't necessarily be out there making offers if you're not comfortable with what's going on.
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you, I'm not. We've got several properties under contract, but we deferred all of them because I pushed them back a couple months because I've been doing this for 15 years and I'm not buying anything right now. So I'm not saying you should do what I'm doing, but I'm just saying I've got a ton of experience, but I'm not sure what's going to happen next. And there's so many unknowns right now that to new investors, including Lydia, who asked us through YouTube. Thank you for your question, Lydia. Pretty much Lydia's a brand new investor, wants to know what type of investing strategy she should have right now. And I think Jay just nailed it. Lydia, you need to hunker down and learn and network. And there's nothing wrong with that. That actually really benefits your head and it benefits your network here and your real estate know-how up top, so that when we come out of this thing, you'll be that much more educated and that much more connected. So my book, Raising Private Capital, will teach you how to find folks that want to get behind you with money. Jay's book, Recession-Proof Real Estate Investing, will give you knowledge of market cycles and how to play the resurgence and the recession that we may end up in after this thing's done. In that. So I would, Lydia, spend a lot of time just getting educated. I think that's what you need to do. That's what I would do if I were you. Few more questions here. Teresa wanted to know where we were in South Jersey. Jay and I were at a property called the Renault Winery down in South Jersey doing a quick mastermind. That was through BiggerPockets contributor Dave Van Horn's event that he has in Philadelphia. It was a fundraiser that we did through Dave Van Horn through Project Home. Really awesome event. If you want to hear more about that, just look at Dave Van Horn's next event, which will probably be the Mid-Atlantic Real Estate Summit. Mostly BiggerPockets folks are there. BiggerPockets contributors are the speakers. And that Dave Van Horn's obviously a BiggerPockets author as well. So keep an eye out for that, Teresa. Hopefully we'll be out of Corona crazy by the time that comes back around in October. Okay, a few more questions. Siete said, is in times like these, are we becoming more of a renter nation? Interesting, Jay. What do you think?
I think it remains to be seen. I think one of the things that's going to be really interesting after all of this, and I've had this conversation with a lot of people recently, is what are the, and for lack of a better term, I like to use the term, what are the PTSD effects of this particular event? A lot of us, if we have older parents or grandparents or great-grandparents perhaps that went through the Great Depression, we see a lot, and this is probably more for people my age in their 40s and older that saw this, but we meet these people or we know these people who went through the Great Depression, and they have a completely different view of the world than we do. They have very much not all of them obviously, but a lot of them have very much a scarcity mentality. I had a great grandparent who literally would go into a restaurant and would steal all the sugar packets because they were always concerned, what if there's another Great Depression and I can't get sugar? They would take creamers, the little creamers off the table because it was always they went through the Great Depression.
They call it depression mentality.
Depression mentality.
My wife's grandparents were like that. I met both of them, and it was like, hoard anything, eat the leftovers before you make new food. I mean, it was just conservation. And it was funny because that mental concept now seems so foreign, but I'll tell you, they went through something that completely changed your view of the world and your concept and your concepts and things like that. That could be, this will make a major impact on us as a world. And there'll be pre-corona mindset, post-corona mindset, and maybe renting is one of those things that'll, I've always thought that we were going towards more of a renter nation before this happened, because a lot of our younger generations want to be more nimble. They want to be able to pull up and move and go different places, and perhaps that becomes a result of this as well. What do you think?
Well, you remember 2008. Anybody that was around right after 2008 remembers all the talk of millennials and the talk of millennials are never going to own houses. Yeah. Basically, they grew up in a situation where they saw their parents losing their jobs, losing their houses, going through foreclosure, going through bankruptcy, and it impacted their lives in the sense that so many millennials said, I'm never going to buy a house. Yeah. Now, 10 years later, we've seen that a lot of that's changed. So that wasn't unlike the Great Depression where people didn't necessarily keep that, but it impacted the world. It impacted the real estate market for many years after 2008. And so I think that's a big unknown right now. So when all this is over in a year or 2 or 5, are there going to be things that people change their lives? I've heard people say, I'm never going to shake hands again.
I've heard that too.
Yeah. I'm not going to go to large groups of people, be in large crowds again. And again, who knows? Maybe that's like something that'll fade over time. But it certainly could have an impact on people's perceptions of should I buy or rent?
Yeah. Well, here, I'll throw something else at, not about the buying and renting, but here's like a disclaimer. This is what Matt thinks. This is not a fact, but I think the fact of the matter is that a lot of people are learning how to work from home. People like you and I have been working from home for years. We know how to do it. But a lot of people that have not worked from home, or companies that have not allowed their employees to work from home, are now forced to do so, right? And like trying to stay productive, or at least keep their head above water with their employees at home. I think companies are going to realize that they're overinvested in office space. And I think that the world is going to shift towards more of a work from home, work-life balance model, or maybe more folks homeschool their kids, or their school model develops where your kids can stay home one time a week and go to school another time a week. So I think the thing that's going to get decimated, I think, during this is the model of a Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 job that you go to over here if you get in your car and commute to. I think a lot less people are going to commute after this, and because companies are going to realize, I can run this company without having this 40,000 square foot office building over here in that. So what do you think, Jay?
Now take that to its logical conclusion. Right. So think about and I'm waiting to find out exact numbers, but there's been billions of dollars spent on building out telecommunications and telework infrastructure for a lot of companies throughout this thing. I mean, allowing people to work at home, making it easier for people to have telecommute meetings, those sorts of things.
Wish I bought Zoom stock a couple months ago. Huh?
Exactly. So take it to its next logical conclusion. So after all this is done, there are going to be a lot of businesses who realize that we can shore up our P&L, we can shore up our income statement by not spending as much money on office space, by not spending as much money on automobile expenses, by not spending as much money on whatever. We're going to let people work from home. We're going to do long distance meetings over Zoom as opposed to putting people in an airplane and sending them across the country to do these meetings. When companies stop putting their employees on airplanes to fly across the country to do meetings, What else does that impact? That impacts the tourism business. That impacts the hotel and accommodation business. That impacts the restaurant and the bar business. That impacts all kinds of businesses. And I think what we're going to see from this is that, again, that quote unquote PTSD effect that both consumers and businesses have are going to kind of cascade. And we're going to see that a lot of industries are affected at least over the next several years by this. All these impacts that, again, we've been talking about for years. We know that automation's coming. We know that telework is coming. We know that the tourism industry and the airline industry and the hotel and the restaurant industry are all at risk over the next 10 years because of all the great communications technology and infrastructure that's being built out. Nobody expected it to happen in the next 3 months or 6 months or 12 months. So we could see more of a shock effect than we were expecting to see.
Well, these crises tend to expedite things. I mean, 9/11 expedited a lot of things that probably should have happened a while ago in our country from a national security and from a, having to get a scan before you get on an airplane kind of thing. Because you and I are old enough to remember back in the day when you could go and greet somebody at their terminal getting off their airplane. Can't do that anymore. There's a lot of things you can't do when you fly anymore. Up until 9/11, that changed a lot of things in the way that we operate as a country. I think that as a real estate investor, there is a phenomenal opportunity to take the office space that may get abandoned or that won't be as in demand anymore and repurpose office space. I don't know what that turns into. Could turn into living space, turning office spaces into living spaces if that's attractive to people. Could turn into short-term office space because maybe my employees don't need a space we can hang our flag that's ours all the time. Maybe I let them work from home 4 days a week and they go to a common space and get together and have collaborative meetings one time a week. There's different ways that we as real estate investors can take advantage of this. And I think that the reforming of office space is a way that real estate investors can really, really take something that's going to change and just be a part of the change. So a few more questions I'll fire off here before we got to go. Let's see. Hey, Hone Tai. Hone is in the zone. Welcome, Hone. I know I'm on your show this week. Jay was on your show last week. Let's see. A lot of folks are agreeing. Tracy, you're asking about the DC, Maryland, Virginia markets. I think it's too hard to say on market predictions right now. Jay, would you agree on specific market speculations on which markets are going to come out of this thing stronger than others?
Yeah, I think it's way too early. One thing I will say about markets in general, and I'll let you do your own research, is again, the short-term impact in general is going to be on businesses. I interviewed on my podcast a couple weeks ago a guy who owns the number one top-rated bar in the country, and he's well tied into the restaurant industry. And he said there's talk in the restaurant industry that up to 75% of all independent business restaurant owners are at risk of not coming back after this. That's an entire industry that's being laid off. Likewise, tourism industry is going to get hit hard. Sports industry is going to get hit hard. So those are the areas. If your economy relies on tourism, if you live in Las Vegas or if you live in Florida, Orlando, if you live in those areas, your market is likely to get harder hit than if you live in San Francisco, where the Googles of the world are going to figure out how to keep their business going and keep people employed. So if you live in one of these areas where you look at the economy and you look at the employment diversity and you look at the population growth and you say, oh, this is going to be really bad for us over the next 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, 24 months. Well, that's where the opportunities for real estate investors are going to come in, because real estate's going to depend on several things. It's going to depend on employment growth. It's going to depend on population growth, and it's going to depend on wage growth. And when you don't have those three things, the economy in general is hurt in your area, and real estate's going to be hurt in your area. And so this is going to be, this thing is going to affect certain areas a lot more and a lot harder than other areas. Yeah,
I agree. I'm going to speed round you on a few questions. Just give me like a couple of sentence answers on a few of these, so we can burn through a few of them. On the we'll do like a little marathon on the little sprint at the end here. Excuse me. Okay, Shamal Malik, good friend of mine. Do you feel that Section 8 and other government subsidized programs are likely to be the most inoculated for black swan events such as this? Did they protect your cash flow independent of the tenant's life situation? What do you think, Jay?
Short term, yes. Long term, I think these are the types of programs that, as as governments change, as politicians change, as social views on things change, these things are the things that are most either at risk of getting better or worse. So short term, absolutely, I love Section 8. Longer term, I think it's going to depend on a lot of things.
Yeah, and I would say that most Section 8 properties that I've seen don't appreciate like other asset classes do. They can require more maintenance and turnover and things like that. Other issues that get brought along with Section 8 and things like that. So good for cash flow now. You got to evaluate it for your business plan, long term future. Aurora gave a big plug for your book here. Hey Jay Scott, I'm now reading your book, Flipping Houses. Thank you for your amazing book. What do you think will be the right time for flipping houses in the next 3 months? 6 months will be risky this year. In general, Jay, how do you I'll rephrase. How do you think that this market will affect the flipping market? And when would somebody like Aurora here reading your book want to get back into the flip market or even advance the flips that he has going on today?
Yep. Best time to be flipping is at the very bottom of the economic cycle. So when we get basically starting up into that next expansion, when will we be there? I don't know. I personally think we are at least 12 to 18 months out, and that's a personal opinion. I have been wrong before. I'll be wrong again. I don't think flipping houses is going to be the optimal strategy. Not saying if you're an expert there or if you're really good or you can find fantastic deals, you can't make money. I started flipping in 2008, which was basically a year before we hit bottom, and I was doing okay. But I think it'll be once we hit the bottom will be the right time, the best time to be flipping again. So now's the best time to be preparing for that.
You think that we're 6 to 12, but you think we're 12 to 18 months from the bottom, or you think we're 12 to 18 months from a recovery? Where do you think that we are?
Well, the bottom is kind of where the recovery starts.
Right.
I think that things will get worse for the next 12 to 18 months. And then in 12 to 18 months, we will be at the lowest point by whatever metrics you want to use. And we'll start to see the expansion.
I want to bring it home with a few things. We got a lot of great questions in here, and I want to encourage people that just because your question didn't get answered during the live session doesn't mean that Jay and I can't take a look through the Facebook feeds and maybe type in some answers through Facebook and YouTube to get back to you folks. And also remember, these questions are really your questions are really great, and they're great reasons to generate more conversation here on BiggerPockets Facebook page, on the YouTube page, and also on BiggerPockets.com on the forums as well. So a couple suggestions. If your question didn't get answered today, take your question to the forum. And we might be able to get back to you during typing in a few answers here and that. So you guys had some phenomenal questions. I want to acknowledge you guys as an audience here. Now, Jay, I'm going to put you on the spot because a lot of things you've talked about, data that you have. I want to talk to you about what you think, right? And that. So what do you... Few questions. When do you think, again, I know you're not a lawyer, not a, your crystal ball is broken. When do you think that we will go out of the lockdown here, given I'm sure you're monitoring the corona, where we are with flattening the curve and how social distancing's taken effect. When do you believe that America starts to come out of their homes and go back to work?
I'm happy to pretend.
I told you to put you on the spot.
I'm happy to pretend I'm a real estate investor. I'm happy to pretend I'm an economist. I'm happy to pretend I'm a business owner. But now you want to be an epidemiologist as well.
I know, right? Yeah, I know you've done your homework on this one. That's why I'm comfortable asking you the question.
I've read what other people say. If I had to, and again, just a guess.
I know.
Nothing more than a guess. I think this will be the first of several waves of lockdown. Yep. I think the subsequent ones will be less bad. I think at some point in the next, I'm going to say beginning of June, we're going to see a plan that basically everybody gets tested to see if they had the antibodies, which means they see if they were previously infected. Mm-hmm. And I think that we will see that most, or if not all of the people that have been infected will go back to work. Yep. And we will continue to ask that people that have not yet been infected to self-quarantine. I think we'll see a lot of those people that will not self-quarantine, and that by the end of the summer that we will see another round of lockdowns. But I don't think it'll be as bad, because I think there'll be a lot of people who will find out that they have previously been infected that didn't realize that they were infected, and they will stay out there working and keeping the economy going. But I could see at least a second, maybe even a third lockdown event, smaller event over the next 6 to 12 months.
Got it. Okay, thank you. And again, we're not. I'm not. Jay's just putting his opinion out there, guys.
I'm throwing out. That's the opinion of smart people that I read.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of what I said before. Fabian said you're super smart, Jay, so it can't hurt. There you go. A lot of faith in you, which is great. And I think a lot of people do and have faith in folks like yourself and in BiggerPockets.com to give some guidance here, even if it's taken with a grain of salt. So that. And so listen, Jay, I'm gonna bring it home. I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank everybody that's watching for your comments, for your likes, for your shares. If you're watching, just started watching now, please watch this from the beginning, because a lot of great conversation that Jay and I got into from the beginning. If you're watching the recording of this, appreciate you guys sticking around. Take a minute and share this. Number one, to just make sure to propagate information. As I said before, there's too much speculation, not enough information going on. So this is really good conversation. And I think that there's no higher agenda here. We're just trying to be a part of the conversation and help people out. So please share this on your feeds so that people can get to this access to the same information, the same conversations that you guys have. Jay, real quick, if they want to, your book is no better. It's no better of a read than today for people to check out right now. Your book on recession-proof real estate investing, because this is where we're going, and that so they really need to be aware how to invest through a recession. So Jay, how do they hear more about that?
Yeah. So recession-proof real estate investing, go to the biggerpockets.com/store, where you can get actually any audio or digital book is $10 right now. And they're the publisher of all of my books. So you can get that. It'll be out in paperback format. I've been telling them for a year they need to get that in paperback format for when this starts. And now finally they're like, oh no, we need to get it out. So
you're right about that.
Yeah. That'll be out in paperback form in the next few weeks. You can also get them on Audible, Amazon.com. Although Amazon's taking forever to ship books these days. Like I can't get books on Amazon anymore.
They put a lot of that on the back burner. They're busy getting people hand sanitizers and toilet paper right now. So
thriftbooks.com. I don't know if my books are on there, but thriftbooks.com has been the best place for me to get books.
If they go to BiggerPockets.com and buy your book, they get there's a bunch of bonuses and stuff like that. What are the bonuses they get if they buy recession-proof real estate investing? What are the add-ons they get for? And it's like, listen, it's like a couple dollars more, but what do those couple dollars get them in getting it from BiggerPockets.com?
Oh, you're putting me on the spot. And
I am.
Let's see
what I do. I know you can handle it.
You get access to a Q&A that I did last week. Actually, I did a 2-hour Q&A last week with people that bought the book. You'll get access to the replay of that. You'll get access to an extra 32-page guide, Recession Prep 101, Investing in the Real Estate During a Financial Crisis. And then I did a couple other Q&As leading up to this crisis where I do not predict this pandemic. Sorry, I'm not that good. You do.
Nobody did.
Nobody did.
No one's underwriting. I'm just letting you know.
Yeah, exactly. And so you'll get that. And then if you buy the digital version, I think you get access to the audio version. And I don't know if you buy the audio, if you get the digital. But yeah, they're definitely
you get a lot.
Bonuses.
You get an enormous basket of goodies in that when you buy things off BiggerPockets.com. When you buy my book, Raising Private Capital, you get tons of bonuses too, including an 1.5-hour interview with my SEC attorney Gene Trowbridge, who's a phenomenal dude, and he let me pick his brain for an 1.5 hours on stuff. So. Listen, guys, like I said, I'll be back next Monday. Maybe I can twist Jay Scott's arm and get him to come back and join us some point in the near future. I love our new streaming interface here that we're using through. I'll throw a plug out here to StreamYard. And for the folks at BiggerPockets.com, a big high five to our friend Nikki and to BiggerPockets.com for allowing Jay and I to have the space and for creating for researching technology so we can do this little double talking head thing and that. So there'll be plenty of more coming from us and more interviews from me here on this on the Facebook feed. So come see me next Monday at noon Eastern Standard Time. I will be here. And Jay, they can reach you. One more last thing. How do they get a hold of you if they want to pick your brain or connect with you?
Yeah, so Facebook, I write a lot on Facebook. So J Scott Investor on Facebook, J Scott on BiggerPockets, J Scott _123 flip on Instagram. And if you ever want to send me an email, the letter J at jscott.com.
No, that is really putting yourself out there. Jay gave
Okay.
you guys his email address. If that's not really looking out for you guys and want you guys to do the best, and I get Jay doesn't get if you guys send him an email, he doesn't get a nickel or anything like that. He actually just has to reply to it and send you more of his thoughts. So that's really, really just very selfless of you, Jay. Thank you for putting all your information out there like that. And thank you for your hour of your time. I know it's valuable. I appreciate you. Guys, that's what I got for you tonight. Today for the afternoon. Come see me next week here and come check out Jay's. Obviously, you didn't even plug your podcast yet. The BiggerPockets business show that you and Carol have been going on. They need to check out that as well to hear what you guys have to say. So cool, guys. That's what I think we're going to jump now. So thanks for watching and I appreciate your comments. Take care.